Tashdele everyone.
Hello. Page number 6, right?
Page number 6 in the prayer book.
Dola penche sanje duba sho sanje chuna soje chuna la sanje pade dani japsu jen dagi jen soje be sonan Dola penche sanje duba sho sanje nage dewa da dewe chula Jeje dunye da dunye ge chedan dewa jeje dunye mebe dewa tamba da min dewa jeje yere chedan yinda cheya tanyam chembo la dewa jeje Sumjen tanje dewa da dewe chedan dewa jeje dunye da dunye ge chedan dewa jeje Dunye me be dewa tamba dan min dewa jeje yere chada yin tewe tanya chimbo la newa jeje sumjen tanje dewa dan dewe jim dewa jeje dunye da dunye ke judan dewa jeje Dunye me be dewa tamba dan min dewa jeje yere chada yin tewe tanyam chembo la nebra chirji Ani namba chama kusu dewa shayni
I hope all of you are doing well.
Tari da ngazo da Ani sani go yo marwa ngazo tanda shloka ngabad dre ra
So since we have only 2 days left, today and tomorrow, to cover the text, now let's move on with the text and we will explore the 5th verse today.
Tanda di shloka ngabadi khale na kichene chiranzo lo ipiresra Ani chongkha rangi na jeka jela bo resto Tadi khatu sana taona ngazo de lo ma shung ro ra chong samma zuki go ya kesan samma shel te wala tsana kale khabar shwa ba tamune thane gi beto khora chige shanju jese shanju sambaro tende ro ina da ani chi tokpa thobule chani shela pe konki mambo yena ani de chirura ngazo khatu chik ta do shige lamsa chongka samarang ke yaga samashena te tes kale khabaro shawra ine ya ta losin da labe yo kala ma hiwa shira yo ma khare ba de de ni kale tambutte tambu hansa de ko chi thu san ante ba de gala kom ko a ta kale musar samero kale a ta na chi thu sa de ge ya le do lo jong
So then I'm sure all of you have read the commentary as well as the root text on your own. And as we look at the 5th verse, then the general kind of practice that it teaches is the practice of accepting defeat or loss upon oneself and offering victory or benefits to others. And at first glance, when we hear about such a practice, then it's kind of hard for us to see the practicality of such a practice in this day and age. it's hard for any person to kind of live life that way, taking defeat upon oneself and then offering victory to others. It is actually the kind of opposite in the way we live our life. And but this is not to say that this is a very impractical practice in itself, or a method in itself, because when we look at the great beings who have high realization and who are well versed in the actual meaning and the actual practice, then for them they are able to actually put this into practice in their daily lives. So taking them as an example, we can aspire to one day put this into practice. And so then immediately can we do so? Can we take upon ourselves loss and offer our victory to others? Then this might be a little bit hard. But when we look at the title of the text itself, it says training the mind. And when we talk about training the mind, then if we have something to aspire to, then slowly, step by step, if we kind of keep contemplating on it and then try to do it step by step, slowly, then the mind could be trained in that manner. That's.
dāla xīnxī tā tāra sūsū la nī mī shīmbā kī tī sāndi tā kāla jī tādō yāngi mā gāya shīnyi yu rwa kāshī kiāngi zū lāngcō la mā gāya nī tādō chīnyi yu rē kia zū lāngcō nā yā gōyā tī la tādō chīnyi gyōnō la tādō chīnyi tabdā kōsā la tādō chīnyi kārī shīnyi la tādō chīnyi tā tī dāma lī gōrā rwa tī tādō chīnyi dī kōrā sānō tāma xīrā kiāngi la yā bō yu na kōla nē chē kē mē chidā yu rwa 네 타도 진이디 거라다 로충더네 미 아버지 차는 마가니는 타도 치고라 딜레간도 파지나 히지다야래 와 베네 미치베 야고요나 콜레 타도 치고이나 디 야포디 콜레 코란데 라브냐 야고요나 콜레 노케 치고마 라 이네 딜라 마가치야 라브나데 요레데 코치바요 마르데 맘바타야게 탑시로 따니들 요라 디 사노 야포시다네 파기 미디 히제레 코라사노 타마시 라 미치기네 야보요 야보 차로시네 야보라 남바이나레 벤조이나레 유노이나레 고사이나 미치기 야보잖아요. 가가 왜 들어왔다인 라. 잡니네 미치기 야보니 야보선 야보 참아 야보는 기부라 남참아. 라. 티하마고는 신이 이미 야보로 차리 막아야 차도신 디스코 보고자래 야. 라.
So then when we take a read through the actual verse itself, then it reads along the line of whenever someone out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. And herein, when we say that someone out of envy or jealousy does me wrong, then we look at when we look at this situation, then like your physical appearance, your youth, then like your wealth or your position, all of this kind of serves as the basis of envy or jealousy for such a particular person. And when we look at that person who is kind of jealous of your youth, your appearance or your wealth or your position, and then we need to first understand that just because that person is jealousy, it does not have any. Just because he or she is jealous of these particular qualities that you have, then it doesn't really have any detrimental effect on the qualities you already possess. First, we need to understand this, and then we need to try to understand that this person is acting out of a sense of foolishness. That since like his or her jealousy would not have any detrimental effect on the positive qualities you already have, then it's kind of foolish on his part to be jealous in the first place. So understand it in this way, and then some people then kind of also belittle or attack person in this other people in this manner, that even though he is a well-behaved person, then he has no education, always looking at the bad side of the person. So herein, this is a very foolish way to look at things. We should appreciate all the goodness that exists in this world rather than focusing on the negative sides of things.
그다음에 디 지지도 로인도가라 디 지지디나로 안에지 송샤 라마디기 딜레지 송샤라도 파 샤조만 인게라 띵가 나라나 송샤 사이로 지레나 먼저 셈 조마도 나라나 송샤 니엔디 치기요 아스타 당가도 샤나 나에 밀레 차도 치기요 미야고 차나 마가야 치기 나라 치기나 오 데디 쳔도 띵가라 송샤 사메로지 수코아 딜레네 아보다 되는 조도 라 알레디 데비다는 데네 송샤 라마디기 데네 송샤 라마디기 순두가라 아니 미드지 데네 치기요 사레사나 파쇼로 런즈주디로 차이다 라 알레딩 디송 샤주딩 안도 참말 송요로 마다야 냐마이가지 송고마라 디 냠네 제고니 미 스디 콘도로 쳐게는 어디를 송고라 라 지단기 되게 진이들 송고라 수치기는 제상 하나 나로래 지난주에는 지 거리는 미시발라 차도를 지기는 다리는 주는 같이 해면도 밀라 지금만 배 지기는 가르치기는로 디소소 나라가는 송샤사는 아니 nganzullo jododa ale nyema de yusare de chunguyusare lamadi kala de chunguyusare mishima de chigiyusare samdena nganzullo la shiran jodna ra.
So then as we kind of read the text and read the verse, then do not approach it or do not try to think about it in this manner that this particular teacher and this particular verse talks about something like this, and maybe maybe this is the way other people behave. Don't approach it in this way, because when the teacher or the master who wrote this text, he had the intention of the reader in his mind, and in that instance, the reader is yourself, and more particularly, it's the mind of the reader he addresses. So do not, if you kind of approach it in the previous, in that wrong manner, then you are always looking outside. You are pointing your fingers at others, that other people might be behaving in this manner. And this particular verse talks about it in this manner. And this master, he's talking about it in this manner. And you are not able to kind of look inwards in your own mind and the way the mind works. Without looking inside your own mind and taking this verse to address you and your own mind, then it's impossible to kind of transform your mind, because you will be always looking outside. So know that the text, you know that you need to apply the kind of things that are mentioned in the verse upon yourself, and then try to relate it to your experience. Yes.
세상에서 치디 말로 인도라 소소 디나 최고도나 나 타도 진이야 나라 소샤사나 소저 당거라 나 디나 최고면 내가 디나 지기면서 소소 가봐봐라 뭐네 앞에 하버서 나 디나 당아 디나 지기면 소소소래 키우르라 또 딜리 나로라 최여나 그런 미신바라 타도 진이 근데 최여나 나라 소소 다리니 소등에 지기면은 저 당나 아니 그런 래 뭐네 펜도로 지라라 라.
So then now when the text says whenever someone out of envy or jealousy, then try to think about, if I am included in this particular category of people, do I act out of jealousy? And if you do act out of jealousy sometimes, then try to see like what are the methods that you could apply that is mentioned and taught by the text. If you are not someone who ever acts out of jealousy, then take great joy in that fact that you are not not the particular person that is addressed by the verse. So then like think carefully, are you like included or are you
no? Dia ini mengajar dia kembali di lagi ya, gain dah ni lebih tu dia. Sama le jiung le ma kalam na gra labja jegra dine ma je dine che de ta so da ging labja je dine ta ta su ge notri dine chi me na di so le lo ma ngal la mu sa de li gora ta so dine che de na ngal la su du ta nga jo ta ngol ne so da chi lai de so da so la ta na kwa so le na jo budi da chi bara an sama de le la sama la ore so di gu no che na nga jo ta so che me na okay de pya bo.
So then a particular analogy that we could kind of use is in the nunnery, when the principal or the teachers, sometimes when they address the gathering of nuns, then there are particular instances wherein they have to scold the whole group, the whole assembly, and because there have been some breach of discipline and so on and so forth. And herein, when they are addressing the whole assembly, if you have not breached discipline yourself, then you do not really have that sense of fear, or like a sense of you do not really hear the scolding addressed to you. But if you have breached the disciplines, then when they scold, even though it's addressed to the whole group, then you have a particularly you feel it more, the scolding. So in this manner, when the text addresses the reader in this manner, if you do act out of jealousy sometimes, then to know that it is addressing you and your mind, and it's teaching you the way to act in this act or approach it in such instances. And if you are not someone who acts out of jealousy ever, then it's not addressing you.
Bichara ani da dilagi do ta taw kharan lang do dekhi joina ro shen la tha khasan tai dala jin gi thado shini ani chibi gon ta do khar chi wala na ta kha thado chene magaya de mambe che chikle gore khashi sheshe ta ra mi khashi ki sam ta mai ja je chi li min ni mambe sheshe ta de do ra shi shekor le de gal sheshe ta wa da ya kurjo che wala de mala pe de chikle ga ro khalo order do tang de chi de mambe ro chi de ne yo ra 다 라소발라데 디나올레가 두어 카레나 참마이 마부지 두고 하더라 시시 땅바 타도 차바 가제 차바 남주두자 땅바 다디나 카레니요 라 디디컬다 아주 지나기 저버 고메기다 고급야시디 디디로 라 디디미에나 예르 메나 메로시라 심방아주 남디 참마 키우자 하후레나 저버 고미나 저버 검사고네 이요마라
So herein, when the text says, whenever some out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, so in these instances, when someone attacks you or belittles you, now in the English translation, only attacking and belittling are mentioned, but in the actual Tibetan root text, attacking, belittling, and then the end word is la sokpa. La sokpa means so on and so forth, like any other similar attacks. So boastfulness, acting out of arrogance, all of these are included. And I felt it was important to address this too. And now in this instance, when someone out of envy does you wrong by attacking or belittling you, then that is the perfect time and the perfect opportunity to practice tolerance. Because the measure of your tolerance, the measure of your forbearance is tested in that very moment. Normally, when we are all calm and happy, relaxed, then tolerance is not so. Then the measure of tolerance could not be said to be tested by such situations. The true measure of tolerance is tested in such situations. So you need to particularly try to practice tolerance in these instances.
다칼로 종 냠바든 데가 수치나게 레 가버려 이내엔 잠자가 수치 예카장라 떼와라디 간데로 줄 떼. 다 예카 간데스 떼와라 라이쇼라. 벤나 빼도 샤와이나. 지금도 리도지 간로 치. 데시모도 메와이나. 담보 차나 쳐레라. 지다 코 가공가 이제 집버르데 심바들라 데시 통다 데데진다 수송가 데스 가공나 두리잖아 데서. 결혼을 지지. 아 데네 미경고도 데네나 치카 실로로 두디까 녜테니도이나 데서를 하고 결혼되는스라 진이서로 하고 결혼되는 데가 좋지다 실로로 지추시가도 데서도 강이 되게 하고다. 봐. 아니 지주랑 건데도야 상가로 따 시디야 하고다. 봐. 야지 모던 상가제라 마라 안데 가시 모라라 가시 마라 안데는 너무 전한도 실래 데데도 가서 계속 추추추야 가서 때도다. 봐. 다 데데가 나가서 로 고미야라. 저도 춘주를 배천 춘주를 돼. 이내 가시 춘주래서 뭐 건도마다. 담보 가이는 미션 받상을 비게잖아. 수순 들어줘. 봐. 대서로도 가야 하시고 미션 봐야 메다. 봐. 아니 손주로 근데 하고도 가지. 수수대 엔타노 감바장 라바장 되려대. 미카신 이제 대서 말아 빼강이 되다. 드디어가 가서 산다요. 봐. 괜찮아 대쇼들에 되는 디다. 뒤저 계속 춘주래 이내야. 꼴로 검다죠. 춘주가 날려다는 체레 도라. 근데
So then, now the last two stanzas or lines of the verse, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. Now, for us as beginner, as lay people or as beginner practitioners, then this is a very hard practice that we cannot take. I think it is impossible for us to kind of immediately take like some like substantial defeat upon oneself and give like offer victory to others. This is kind of hard for us immediately doing that. But then when we think about like the kind of way that basic courtesy works, such as offering your seed to an elder person, or then when you are going on a hike, if someone is in need of water more than you, then like giving them the water first. And like these kind of small instances of basic courtesy, if we see that, if we kind of notice in this instance, we are doing just exactly that we are sacrificing our own comfort for others' sake. And these are very small instances that are that are termed as basic courtesies, but this is actually a different form of this practice as well, wherein you are taking a small defeat upon yourself and offering the victory to other. And this is what is called basic courtesy in our generally. But then not all people are capable of such basic courtesies, if we notice, because right? Because when we go into a bus, some people do offer their seat to elderly and someone who is in need of seat. But then some people do not do that. They just jump in the car and they want the best seat for themselves, right? And then we also have particular experiences when we go to teachings, and sometimes it becomes very crowded, and then we notice some particular persons who occupy more space than they needed for one person, wherein like they're thinking about their comfort. They just want to keep their feet out, wherein everybody is like sitting in a cross-legged position, but they do that. So herein we notice that it's just a matter of familiarizing the mind with this practice. And if we are able to kind of familiarize the mind with the small instances, then of course we can build upon this, and later on, as our practice become well established, then there will be a time when we will be able to take substantial defeat upon ourselves and offer victory to others. Thus.
가정이 맞지다가 애는 붙이게 돼. 이내야 가정이 뭐아주 다른 사람아 다리를 보면서죠. 이놈은 바스는 미 오스만 뭐 칸데 싫어. 니 이제 제메지기 부부 춘주식 테르셔라 봐. 식라바디 방갈에 키도다. 아니 다 바스는 애들 직칼로 리도리도로 시다. 아무도 다 인제라 치지는 나나나 되고 때도라. 아니 냐야 라네 아니 부모티 때 중라. 그런데 데라. 근데 아한테 슬랑데다. 팔라 보면 심바지도. 뭐 더더치다. 다다다스 등가 제워지는 말레데 좀 뭐심바데 부고니 티니 파일을 대주그를 샤야 나라테 슬랑데. 치도 샤가스 말레데가 보면 심바지도. 코더더르다. 근데 쉽게 저는 말셔. 아니 나는 이게 말했어. 나다 데워데 나라 졸라치는 게. 아니 디 단도 미게 오더다 심만 mam보도. 인지 미는 아쇼사. 아니 그 가질라. 교육 미심발라 제워져서서. 다 인지 미 쳐대고 예르스라. 그래서 미 대단하다 지 말에 그 시소를 지도 미 따디도 나는 내가 따기에 내가 더 나거려 요. 근데 저기도 미 부분이 틀린들 아니 제보지는 근데 지도 왔어. 다리 디긴 나는 앞에도 가는 니 데서 인지 미 쳐대야. 그래서 디 가르라나 진짜 수 야도도 소리면더라. 미 통나래 지금 그러다 이제 약슬라 수 야부치도 수라 지금 내가라 된 줄알아 봐 랑데도 보무지래 뜻까지 요 챙겨 안데로리샤. 제가 그때 배춘주지 다 가서래라 이내한테 dinero 가서 가와도는 리라 chanzo 나가서 또 싫어 두고 말이지 때문다가 도와 있나래 다 지게 수수지 내가 자가 도와 있나래 다 간지 내다 망보죠 미잖아 마요 봐 뒤뒤가 안 chanzo 또 상다.
So then now to give you a personal incident that I would like to share with you. Now as I share this incident with you, I'm not saying that I'm a good practitioner, or that that I am a good person, or I'm trying to not boast that, but I want to share this experience with you because it kind of illustrates a very beautiful point. As I was traveling in the bus from Dharamsala to here, then in between, as it was a moving bus, I noticed that there was a Indian lady with two punyilarwa. She had like two child with her, one very infant one and one like 5-6 years old. And as she was very uncomfortable in a moving bus and she had no seat, then I felt that it is my duty to offer that seat to her. So I stood up and gave my seat to her. And then I didn't have any luggage to carry, I just had a small backpack. And then I just stood up, holding on to the railing of the bus. And then as we were traveling in that moving bus, after I gave the seat to the Indian lady with two children, and then there was another Indian lady who was sitting, who already had a seat. And then after like 15-20 minutes, her like destination came and she had to get up. And as she was getting up, she was pointing at me and calling me to come and sit on the seat. And then I thought like she must be mistaken, that I like looked around. There were a lot of old people too in that bus. And then she was like, then I thought like she must be mistaken, but she was insistent that I had to sit in her seat. And I thought this is very weird. Then she explained that because you gave your seat to that Indian lady, now you must sit in my place. You must have a seat. So from that instance, I realized like this kind of the way like we kind of behave in society, like everybody is looking at everyone, right, outside, and then small instances such can inspire other people, right? So this is the manner in which like our small actions have an effect.
지금 잠도는 아주 지금 뭐대로 가왔다에네 두자들 통들어 미처마 두자 맞다 하시는 대사미 여마로 레이다 대문에 말해라 미 야포 빼면 보여라 지당이 대상아도 나서도 좀 걸어야 파서로 받치니로다 아니 계속 칼라로 받치니로 부 다투드네 소조 치니로 아니 달로는 칼라로 받치니 잠니갈 미 야포 빼면 보여 야포도 싫었던 거 말아 통고 말아 되는 아주 통고대 뭐 두자로 다 대상미 두지 차살라 라디고라 이내 수동문에 약보다가는 매일 먹어요. 되네나래다 이제 자와니나 같이 실로를 찍게 상승도 되는 통고만 오늘 검제 냠내 제 오늘 하나 똑바른 일이 있는 뭐 보여라. 양아도 하고 말. 근데도 제가 약보도 실은 되는 만 남들 되고 말라. 제가 남들이 지당이 시소나라 카레 통화에는 수도 약보시 통화에는 디래 예수 지도는 빼봐. 제마도는 지세 이랑 제라. nga juma enderu chigiya mi ke ngola ro bache na ne ba ro bache na asozole penjo do ni mi jugula ro bache ro ra kisi penjo de ne me bai na mi ji san san ta machine ro ya kale khabu de ne penjo ro bache khari ne yora ta tende phatsu chewa ni mi chama chikchi le samki ya bache na azu shuso khora ya bache ra tamba azu di shuso chunju de ya bache na ani phagi jekha ba bache tene zamni khali sama chi bache ra azu disin zamni le de be di chunju chare ra 근데 예카니 투바샤샤 아코니 미마마 진샤 세샤 투샬라나 나도 미도 제 원신고 말은 나도 빙자만은 저요 말때 무슨 마데 하시리다 라 가상에는 답변에 빼도 샤와이나 타다 갸이게 나도 릴 동가쇼사니지 라 근데 동가쇼 미마마 세디가라 타디네 미 가지마 무시여래 아니 보도 제면도 가질 하여래 시디가라 남라 가지 중라 세상 시소나라 야보셔는 나도 상마 기버려 주라 지금 만리는 아주 라카툰 저면에 심발랑 통통디가 지웁니다. 라 하데도 오치원에 자 샤차지로 리도 라 제가 된대요. 제가 하나도 미련 오래네 가지기 야부 지투에나 아니 나라서 시소야 야제도 라 내가 개만 나 같이 이제 나 미지를 사야만 교회 미지리 찍기 미치기 아니 가서 시소 차고 라
So from this particular like example, then we can think what we normally hear that because in the 21st century or the modern times we say it is a general like assumption that the way people behave with each other and the way human beings treat each other has become very bad or has worsened. This is what we hear. And this is, I think, an after effect of just focusing too much on the negative news in general, because anything that good happens is not kind of highlighted, because the kind of media sensationalizes the bad news, and because they need to kind of grab our attention, then all these bad news are propagated more. But like from small instances like this, we can realize that human beings as a general in society always look and observe each other. And if we are able to kind of behave in a good manner and try to engage in benefiting others in small ways, then this could serve as inspiration for other people too. So I think it is very important for all of us to kind of also look at the good side of humanity too, not just like be focusing on the sensationalization of the bad news all the time. And humanity in general are connected, and in this day and age the world has become even more smaller than before. So we hear news news about each other all the time, and then if we hear something good, then we are able to kind of rejoice in that, even though it doesn't really affect or concern us. And likewise, for example, when we heard about the train crash in India, wherein 3 trains crashed into each other, then when we saw the suffering and the death of that train crash, then naturally we had a sense of like sadness in us, even though we individually we didn't have any connection to that particular incident. But this is the way in which humanity is generally connected, and it is all the more connected, and the world is becoming more smaller nowadays. So it falls upon all of us as individual members of humanity to act in a positive manner, to focus on the good side of humanity, and to kind of be inspired by good things that people do, small good things that people do. And it is also our responsibility to do small good things on our own, so that it serves as inspiration for other people too. Yes.
mani로 집에샤와나라 당이 꾸막꾸메 버차시 코나 꾸막꾸니데 뭐라이나 라다 ngal kumatenga yera dangal chura ra tangi go nga kumai ko kuma marela so changa do tindegi nga chungule go ma ra tidigale ya hi tu go da nga me kuma me ta nga go ne ta cha me be na so di demba nga chi tu chura ra 다 nga di chunyam chi kuma ngai chaba ngai zuma sama ngai la senge kana tende da nga tu go ma ra tindekine ya bo ma ra ni mi duo do changa ta ndo cheda ra 심발 내가 노트 심발 참아 미두어디지 나니 참아 얘기로나 뜻깔 가버라 봐 된선 되게 가서 야들이 지금 세상 가서 거두이네 쓰는 거 지쳐야 돼 뵙게 전부라.
So then when we look at the 5th verse, when he talks about taking defeat upon oneself and giving or offering victory to others, then it is liable for us to kind of immediately think of it in this manner, and then be kind of like disillusioned with this practice. This is not what it means. For instance, now let's say you and me, you engaged in theft, or you stole something, and then and then in that instance, when you are caught, then you put the blame on me, right? So in that instance, would you be should you take defeat upon yourself and say that I am the thief and take the blame? No, this is not a good practice or a wise practice. Why? Because you're not being honest, and this is not the truth. You are denying the truth. If you deny the truth, then you are denying the course of justice too. So in this instance, it does not. So you should not take it in that manner, that taking defeat upon oneself and victory, offering victory to others. In this sense, this is a wrong way of taking the practice, because if you do that, then it kind of encourages the other person to engage in more misdeeds, right? Not thinking about the immediate immediate obstruction that you put to justice, but also you kind of encourage the person to engage in more misdeeds, which will serve to bring more suffering for him in the future. So in that instance, you should be always honest, truthful, and then be able to confront the situation with truth.
근데 아니야 잠잠도 지 메시지는 냠충도 치리거라. 이 미라 칼로당 소소게 칼로다. 진전타 미조다오다 소소게 레와 미조 치마투에로 데데츠에 치부 말아라. 소소 냠충으로 제대다. 아까 구진적에 명예 밀라야레테 투게 메 남주도 말해. 소소 냠충 치어에는 계산가를 지당기 소소게 나제죠. 나 쇼인데 나제디 마짜도다. 지제 아니 소소 냠충 치에는 소소게 잠비 연데 봐. pensaragira ra so chika khare ne nyamchulo ni midze tsuko so so le yaburjora so so ngaje che shuji ki ngama to me so ne misama shena ro cha ade to bosha so yor dilen dewa ma je la je ngado le kuma bo ko do tene ro chegara.
So then as we talk about these practices, taking defeat upon oneself, then adopting an attitude of humility, such as holding oneself lower than others, then this does not mean that we are doing this out of some sort of self-pity or like doing this out of some sort of like lack of confidence in our own abilities. This is not what it means. This kind of practice is kind of taught to pacify or to as an antidote to the very real arrogance that can develop in us, since this arrogance could serve to sever our relations with others and bring about bad consequences and suffering upon ourselves. Then it is very important to take these practices as an antidote to the arrogance that can develop in us.
그 지금 그만이나 잡아이나 두자리 두자 뭐 스마토네 스칼레도 라 가디네 진짜 가장 알아서 개철리다 한바 잡아도 계산하니로 와지 정말 참아도 카투크 계산하더니 로지다 지다야 가지고 제카라는 뷰엘디가라 지 두자 참아 콘조 야래라도 근데도 가지 마라 라이 인지민다 디디가라 차나 내다나 산나다 라 간데질라 수수수수 산노저름 내페션 치불 데타야 마라 수 콜렘 디 시소다 템바다 카리네 야르잔지다 사마 템바지르선데 디 geb지쇼라 다디 마디코 쿠마이나 아타가 코 제카디 콜테 올라는 치기 구미 두자 가르치는 단도 야버들라 통만 띵아도 좀 차고라라 데데데 데기양 아주 쉬우시 칼라 고고야요 레스라 아츠랑 볼레데 페키션 버라 카리네.
So then, as we kind of addressed already before, that we should not have a mistaken view of this practice, such as you kind of discussed in your sharing in the last sessions, that in this day and age, we see a lot of people who are greedy and who kind of continuously lie to get what they want, be kind of successful in like. When we look at them, we kind of see them attain some success, but this kind of success is kind of short-lived, and we need to know it. And so, as we come into contact with such people, it does not mean that we should always kind of take the misdeeds or transgressions that these people do upon ourselves, and then like tolerate these misdeeds. It doesn't mean that, because if we do that, then it will not be an honest practice, right? And it's not a truthful practice too. So we should not always take the text on the literal meaning of the word itself. Always try to relate it to your own experience, and there is a substantial wisdom that we gain from our own experience, and use that wisdom to discern in what particular situation should I apply the teachings. Yes.
Chase, Chumuchi the Chemitang, Social Genji, Tansambola. Ondi Carla was Chitang to Jimmy Parachama Jamba to Zubotula Suba Kanda Kanji Sama, Shingi Chidera. Today in the Imba in the Dukalana, Kondo Chit Subatang and the Sonam Sayada Gavasa Road, the Mabulegora, Kazuso to the Chibures. Inia Chick Tanda Chinju Chidiani as a little Chimbustanaja. Chesan Chinju Jilea, the Chonchimbo in the land. Today, Chiju Marisora. Chetan tagging and the sun to hear the color middle way. Tapa Chikimar to Tuneabuda. Chumuchi the Chemento. So, Genji Tana Sans, Gender Jachamuchi Dutuna, so Kesa, the Marchongatis Langona Camera. That's also Chonga Land, a Pagila Casanke Williamina, and this was Chonga Chadra. Apagila Suzuki Chondo, Chonga the Keleni, Mimambujila Pentogotuna, and Diora. Or the Delaborma, Chon Sama of the Golakilla. Then to the Marsh, so that the kind
So this kind of contradiction in the practice of giving and taking, giving victory to others and taking defeat upon ourselves is already kind of addressed in Shantideva's the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. And if you look at the commentary, verse 83 of Shantideva was engaging in the way Shantideva's guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. It talks about, it reads, the particular verse reads, I shall practice the far-reaching attitudes of giving and so on as being more exalted one after the other. I should never discard a greater for the sake of a smaller. I shall consider most importantly the benefit for others. So in this particular verse, it mentions this contradiction and how to approach this contradiction. And it advises us to never take a greater loss for a small cause. All right? So to kind of adopt an attitude of middle way in such instances.
Today, the Padang Shiloka about the Lapeta, Tenda, Suzuki Yamudo, Londo, that Hama Mabushira, and Kanas dig on the Sevuchai, the Yesra, Nia, Topato in itinerary, and the Mewaine on the Mutinimado. Taste is Tamashaki in Yakasi, did not the day you see Monet Wachira. Today you know two itineraries.
So then, as we discussed the verse, the meaning of the verse, and try to explore it with examples and try to relate it to our own experience by citing, and then we also kind of discussed it by citing other sources as well. So this is the kind of way that we kind of talked about it. And in our discussion, if you have any questions and doubts, such as like, oh, this is not possible, this is not practical, then any questions and doubts that you have regarding the verse, then they are welcome. Any questions?
Yeah. Could you perhaps give an example where this verse would be appropriate?
Tanda di sije di ju ngaba jora di eni peji shanandasra di sije ngawa gi nyamlen jora di rembo tsambo yoegi nedang
Taking better share. Penalty Sunshudo, Cosilana, Tachans and Temutaka, Tetra Lomer, Tedo, Solia, she don't the vegetable that is done at the Hashiram, Dangan, Kaila, Penalty Mima, Zamselena, cook up the Sarochi, Pesha Venera. That Yapuchi Chimodomina, Ra, Think Alabola, the Sangaja member, think Corona Pate. And this was an anti-magic Sulu, did do sign. Did you allow the Samachi Tango in the Chichilang Condo in a Mazuchi, Sunjula draw in a Tadi ni je kona kangi chair the kola deju samet o chik chair and dia pujarum nima tawa de goya de mara chito khashijira and the camera ni de kona deju ngai chito khashi kale je matu be kem do do samna le la chaida pena de chitang ye pe mo sha.
So then the example we already kind of discussed about it. For example, when you go to a theater, when you go to a theater, or let's say when you go to a teaching, and there is one seat and people are like kind of clamoring for that seat, and then if you are able to kind of say like, okay, if you are able to offer that seat to somebody else, then this is a practical application of this where we practice. And when we do that, then if you think about it, then the teaching itself, it does not go on for days or months. It's only for a certain period of time. And then if you are able to sacrifice your comfort and look for another seat for yourself, then this is an example of this practice.
Okay. So I was thinking of, I have a colleague, and our opinions about how to teach the French language are extremely opposite, and we often have to teach like in the same year, and so we often get into bad fights. And so I was just thinking if this, if I could just say, well, okay, this time perhaps, I'll just let her get away with her strange opinions. But others are affected, so the students are affected, and it's not just my pride, perhaps. On the other hand, students are so different. There are so many different kinds of learning types. Maybe her teaching style is better for some of the kids, so I just should let her. I should just think, well, she's a good teacher too. She just thinks differently.
And that moi Koran tiwa ngoma de dirt Koran gigera tini gigen lero chi sir ani Koran nija gi France ki la bi sir lobse ni Koran ni da gi lobti chedan la taw thuma thi yung sir thap do jera tindis thigur la ni ta moi khoi moshin da di labdan dir cheda muthi me jira and then the kitchen bekonani barala da chuba shor ges cham shibu chage sir ani lori me chibal lab gida konani ani digi chembe ani moge samsula sra ta samsula na korang gi chornang la mishinda digi thap dida morang muthu yomara yaboch chorgo mara digi chembe lokchu mambojila dapsin thigi yor samgora so denre roji chengi ani chuba da simre chi yora ani dichesa ta nedang den rechil le de zamba ani moi da samoy jachimbu ne tangna ende do ta yoros pu changma jamang chikpa mares ra ani moi labjo labdang githablam thigi chi khashi chi la phengi yigires yina jachesan samno tangna morangi khogi labdang endo da dichi muthu yo marwa
kono de ala samura
So do you think your methods are better?
Of course I do.
Oh, yeah, tonge dus.
Then the
other one thinks, then your colleague thinks that his methods are better.
The other one is also a very intelligent person. I just find her extremely weird.
Isn't that the practice would be to sit down and practice objectively versus subjectively? How am I looking at this? And I look at it for the sake of the children. And like then you said, you already started doing that. You said, but then some children learn differently. And then sort of think of, I'm asking, right? Like you think of the majority of the children, how you would assess the way forward.
Koilana the losulan in the tatua gorwas nijagi. Moi ni labdang di yaga duela the kapora. Any pool rangija in the diras. Mang su mangme dusra, koi labdan yaga, moi labdan. In the nation any pazu nijakija chebache, takariche in the talan the dish severas.
The negative lehabur, Pugulati Tangi Kalan Nani Yomara, Kranjaki Giri. The Banangani. The young Labaya Pope Songra, Kikara Yaboy Tingra, Ninja Pugula Shase, Chita Pia, Ninja Ra, Ying and I should in our children, Kokarayashi, Kunu, Yaput Chibusan, Dida. Tadi Kyoin the Magado, the Chikshoyi Chatigala, and a Pugud Rashikangitis, Ra, Namijina, Chovachime Matana, Pudi Tondi, the Nenaton, the Ku, Simpachimunda, and Stemura Patan Hahoda, Ra. Today, the Tambo Tanshi, the kind Chambuche, the Pekishan, Ra, Munin. Chiramini, and Kishindida, and then the Lagu, then the Lapicola Pentopit to Asra, and he can Mashashi Layamata. Can I contest Lagu Asra? Can I did the Aladas? And the Colorado Sano to the town Lagra, 안 그런 인자기 가리 야가도 봐. 디 아니 인자기 되지는 아니 오 다디 그냥 잘라 빼야고도 디 내고 들으셨어. 디 가시디 뜻에 따라서 많이 받던 거스라. 나가 나도 인데도 some ways. 니기라 야시도 파들래. 라. 디 야가 참 그런 일이 보고만 랍셔테지. 라. 다 먹어야 니자라 시라 피지미지로디 디 먹어야 시는리다. 저디 그냥 참으셔 뺏기죠. 라. 수술 내가 가와치는 디 내가 지서들 참으려 기부다. 선이 돈이 줘야 되잖아. 디 내가 지서들 기부면 내지도 참으면 선이 너무 통하는 지 맞아야 줘라. 내가 알레 부고래 이게 말을 코는디 내지도 좀 통하듯이 기부면 럽두가라 그냥 파기 디 삼 코디. 아니 소속 semana 가요 버디 부고래 럽투 말아. 봐. 그 저도 담부처럼이 참부처럼이 레자 가려는 어디 냠도치. 봐. 신나니 마티는 디고는 얘들을 아디디디디 안디디야가 되디암 안디 이렇게 하시잖아. 봐. 잠아서라. 다디 라는 단에 안 그런 얘기 보들라야. 봐. 알았어 한번 엔지 삼부들아. 아니 안 계속 그런인데 뜻강에도 맞춰이나 부부틀을 맞아야처라. 그런인도 룸 로스지로 이제 하고 싶어. 그러가 부부틀을 쳐야고면 가야고면 콘주 배당이 되로. 봐. 부가시 쿠쳐가 그래. 가시 쳐가 말아. 부고 나로 연계도 책. 아 니게데 약보를 사이야 뭐 들릴 자 있는 소리야. 봐. 제가 파마카시 코라즈 투고로 오시는 로가지다. 부고 토마죠. 가시 부고 있어 바바바 부고 된 선대 라브라도 나도 치모도 들어 책다. 봐. 네가 저 있어 나는 뺐다. 봐. 네게 강이 개말에 그냥 참사.
So, I think the solution lies like between the two of you rather than just asking the students. And as like you two do not get along and agree with the methods that you use, then it is very important first not to engage in like arguments in front of the students, right? This is very important because this has a very real effect on the students when they see you arguing with each other. Because there are some students who like the way you teach, there are some students who do not like the way you teach. Likewise for the other person, right? And this will serve to create disagreement among the students themselves. And this is a very real effect on the students. Because in this situation, the students are totally blameless, if you think about it, right? And now the way to approach this situation is between yourself. You should be, whether you like it or not, that is your workplace. And as you go for work, you have to face this person and you have to face each other. This you need to accept first. And with this acceptance, then the kind of way forward, the best solution forward is to sit on a table and talk openly with each other that you do not agree with this particular method of yours. And he also would say his piece, that he or she he or she would say, like, I do not agree with that particular method that you use. But in that exchange, we also know that there are some methods that you can pick from her too. And likewise, she can pick some methods from your side too. So in this manner, you need to kind of resolve it. And I'm sure like it would not take more than a few hours to kind of like sit with each other on a table and address it openly. Wow, like, so I think this is very important, to address each other openly and then be able to listen to each other. And then because there are things that you can pick up from each other, and then combining these, then you have a better method that can like that you can use to teach the class or your students. So when we think about a family, the example of family, if the parents in that family kind of air out all their frustrations and disagreements in front of the children, then we know that it has a very negative effect on the children. So we need to do it separately. The parents need to kind of, if they have an argument, do it behind closed doors, air out the disagreements in this manner. So likewise in your situation, very important not to do it in front of the students.
I I think the worst part was like if I was jealous of people like me badly, wrongly, and with that disrespect and so on. I think I think jealousy in oneself sometimes is very difficult to identify, but it is also a source of great suffering. So I wonder if we can explore a little bit like different form of jealousy, because I think it happened to me in the workplace. Once I understood that the person was acting out of jealousy, I could feel her suffering. And then I could let go of why is she treating me badly, because I could see that she's acting out of suffering. But I think for me what was difficult then is to understand how all the level of jealousy, because I think it is a very complex mental factor, I think.
The Kurangilana Tiwado Jirdo, and Ninyamdo Rigudo Jirt, Chagdo Lejura, Chagdo Lady, the same Simjung Jishengura, Chagdo Lady, Mo Kandere, in Chagdo Lady, the Nabadamida Jitangura, in Chagdo Munzinchi, the Pekapoda. Di Chagdogi Nambachire, Di Chagdogi More, and Suzu Jula Chagdo in Munzichi Pekapura. Tenashi Mishindagi Jolam, the Chagdogi Junior Yungio led in Munzichi Pekapoda. Kina Mishindagi Juba, the Jubanyamba, Jolam Yambajura, the Chagdogi Junior Yungio and Munzin Tubna, Middle and Rangshingi Kota, Dunigi Judoji, Yorel and Nijiroji Keto, Telababa and Samno Sawaji, Samno Jachia and Tantura. Tenashi Susule Taranra. Chizani Chagdole, the Simjung Bay, Gonyo Poch Tungudus, Munzing Kako, Chizan Chagdo Gingo, number, and it Munzing and took it in the Dishi Juntunas.
Tado lady, Chirangi show in the right. Shingi, Yunero, Yunde, number in a Benjo in a Juno Carina, Takosa Carina. Pagi the Apocha, Susan Magash little. Penachurani Chipochiba, pen, for example, okay. Chini the Nimachik left to live chair. Ani the Gigi lava chair. Tala did is like Nimachi, oh, Copia would do the Lana. Shulamsa. Coyabo the children no go here, Maria. Mamsa, Makajan, Cocajan, Ding Madel, Cocajan, Abuchalan, Dig Zamzarashi automatically. Then the Tatorusha, Mazuba, Hindi Apochalan, Mazuba. Mission Alcoyapshan Power, Maraya da Suelana, Kanichim, Manichipale, Nimachiclet, Gagachiclet, Zagatama Chipper, Koya Hasileran, Susalam Magachi, Chicleuna, the bigger the Tadoro, but the Tato de Pekin, Casacalaja, Rasuchi, Carla Mazui, Mishapo Chagan, and the Mazuba de Tadorusra.
So then, at a very gross level, when we think about the emotion of jealousy, then it kind of arises in us when we look at the qualities that other people have, right? The qualities they have, or the certain position that they are in, or like something that they have, wealth or possession. These, when we look at these, and if there is automatically a natural dislike for the fact that the person has these qualities, or is in this position, or has these possessions or wealth, then if there is automatically a sense of dislike, then jealousy springs in us, right? And then now, to kind of give you an example, then it also has this a quality of intolerance when we think about it. Let's say that you and me, we were taught by the same teacher for the same amount, same duration of time, and the instructions are the same. And now, then, like after the lesson, after a period of time, if the teacher, in one instance, kind of says like, addresses the other me and says like, "Oh, you're doing very good," then what happens? Naturally, you feel like, oh, why didn't he like commend me, right? Why is he? Why is the teacher like? Why is the teacher praising him or her? This naturally, automatically comes in our mind, and this is a form of intolerance of the fact that someone else is being praised. So these are the form of jealousy that can spring in our mind. Yes.
The thing also between you share the Tato let be do, right? 미데 비버로이네 초바도 초바버로 초바지 예제는 지게 싫어야지만 너클 타도 마 그것도 가르치네 예제는 지기 내주라 예카도 제거라 베나리로 자니 재미로 가는 지 제가 심하지 예제를 심하지 막아야 지치리고라 타도들 제가 인제 오늘 하고 삼단 개 굳이요 맞다 콘도 야보잖아 야보라 콘도 야보잖아 콘도 내 쉬부시 레지 말 그냥 제급지 야보잖아 지 막아야서 미치게 남미치 야보잖아 지 막아야 미자가시기 보고를 야보잖아 미자 심바디 막아야 돼 디켄서 라시기 레이도 제가 간도 디방 걸로 다서 들으시리오라 딘디 단단한 남미의 시소다 지 제급도 들을 샤고데 수수수를 다시다 큐미지 야보차기 되는 가가기 문제는 냥나 두저라 라 그 노트 말아 미심바디 야보차야디 미심바디 노트 말아 나산나 단단 마히 수수가 타도지 수수가 밀어 타도 제 마다나 도 수수 보트네라 인데스라 수수가 쥐발라 인데스 타도 제들이 게세지 나도 수수를 마 내고도 어디네로 산다나 타도 제라 그거 쳔데
So then when we talk about the emotion of jealousy, then it is also a very dangerous emotion. Now when we say it is a dangerous emotion, because we know that it could be the root or the source of many big conflicts between nations, between families, between communities, and it all springs out of a sense of jealousy and resentment. And now when we say it is a very dangerous emotion by like kind of applying it to these conflicts, big conflicts, then it does not mean that it just our investigation ends there. The real kind of investigation is to look towards your own mind when this particular emotion springs inside of you. Does it have any like positive qualities at all when this emotion arises in you? Investigate that. And if we are able to kind of, if we are able to do that, then we will also be able to reach the conclusion that it has no real positive qualities. Rather, it has very negative consequences for the mind as well as the body itself, because the body also suffers when we are under the grips of this emotion of jealousy. So, in this manner, look at the drawbacks, the deficiency of this emotion, and then try to lessen or try to abandon or try to control this emotion when it arises in you. Yes.
대기 코로나 강해지도 아니지 가산을 디스칼레 다디 리네 사노다라 그랑게리지 장면 미나라 아키니 대기가니 콜레케시 엔디치레 대기 탐나야 메나 다 콘드라 마트에 계시 가시 계시사고로 두마라 가길래 시에 그거 말하시나 야다 누루 마드잉가이나 다 그냥 몰라 야슈도 쳐 올라둘래야 볼라 라 이네 그랑게 랍두가라 파기 미들라 맘바치나 마다라 대개게 아빠가 만드시는 거 앞에 아버지들 찔라야만 라 수수기 콜론 남바타바 부글 하를 팽게나 마오바 부근 더남다 마오바 부 수수를 펜토에 미지 조고 삼에 캐나라 미드니 지요이나 캐나라 신 가르요나 티 담보 다시 데토라니 생칼레 가르죠 캐나게 라 타게디 미 아버지는 지금 아버지는 지 딜레 저 아버지를 시험마도 도대체 데히 맞아셔라 단도 중요해나 아니 gengi khora ngone thone chu khoran di sanji thaboda ya por khoran za lecha khare na khoran za leng boris ra tendel phagi yi shimba ma ba chejiyo ra ti chewa ina phagi la gi dil gani ya pu ma bo jora khud sangam la ne ra jesa mi sangam la ma ne bi thone kyan gi ne ba khani de de pe ki cham ra ti kiran ye sar phato samata wa na chi chen phen tho si ra.
So then addressing your question and the kind of problem you had with your colleague, then it might be also be possible that now there is no that it is kind of impossible for you to kind of reach an agreement or even to talk to each other. If this is the case, then I would advise you to approach it in this manner, that when you teach your students, do it to the best of your abilities, with your methods that you believe in. Do that, and then as you do that, don't belittle the effort and the method the other your colleague is using, or his effort and his method. Don't belittle that, right? Especially in front of students, don't do that. If you are able to, try to tell the students that. Try to tell the students that this is another way of looking at it, and this method could be of use to you too. because there are some students for whom these methods could be very practical and applicable. So if you are able to do that, then it will serve you well, not to have like this constant conflict with yourself too. Yes.
단도 찍라오이메라 다 망불라이메라 그냥 오늘 하선만다인 게 야슈이라에 맞아 시소나 가와도에 디군이 강이 배서 그냥 이게 야고 인기를 하선만다이 하선 치라는 점도 강이 스테라 나가도 야슈코라 야보 인 팅고래 야보 인 인게라 니에가지도 뭐도 춘도 자말랑가디 디기무들라 엔디체지요 말이야 소송하라 산당으로 그라 근데 시소나 되어를 미기 상주 망보지를 가시 시제이 토어를 가시 마을 가시 산나다단다 뭐들이 사말을 렘바지 네트에 패키지 라 근데 제가 안 그러게 신이데 밀라 따따테 두고를 전화나 선발 가기 내가 레디오 지고 근데 뭐다 디 단달래 콜라고 사마치 버더라 전화 증기 쿠모라치 볼라기도 마삼 사마 나 사말을 내다 이거라 어디 사마치 버
So then now I would like to address the group as a whole. That sometimes the best of intentions is not enough. Sometimes the fact that we think we have the best of intentions kind of clouds our judgment. Because we think like, okay, because I have the best of intentions at heart, then whatever I do, my methods, the way I act is the best. And the way other people behave, we kind of discount that or dismiss that. This is not a good practice. We need to be open-minded in the sense that even though I have the best of intentions at heart, I need to be open to other people's view, perspective, and methods too.